A campus under siege, an FBI blunder, and a nation questioning whether the guardians of order can still deliver clarity. I'm Grim. This is your Grim Dispatch for the afternoon of December 16th. Brown University, one of America's most prestigious campuses, woke Saturday to the sound of sirens, lockdown alerts, and a chilling reality of a shooter on the loose. Students barricaded themselves in dorms, faculty scrambled to secure classrooms, and parents flooded phone lines desperate for updates. The Ivy League institution, known for its reputation as a fortress of learning, became a fortress of fear. But as the hours unfolded, the story shifted. The shooter remained at large, but the credibility of law enforcement became the real fugitive. The FBI, in a move meant to reassure the public, paraded a person of interest before cameras. They spoke with authority, projected certainty, and promised swift justice. Yet within 24 hours, that certainty collapsed. The individual was released, cleared of suspicion, and the Bureau's credibility evaporated. What began as a manhunt turned into a fiasco. The narrative was no longer about the suspect, it was about the guardians of order stumbling in full view of the nation. So let's walk through the timeline. The first alerts hit campus just after dawn. Reports of shots fired near the main quad triggered immediate lockdown protocols. Students huddled in dorms, sending frantic texts. Faculty locked the doors, turned off lights, and whispered instructions to stay quiet. The university's emergency system blasted warnings across phones and loudspeakers. Shelter in place, active shooter reported. Within an hour, local police cordoned off the area, helicopters circled overhead, and the national media descended, broadcasting images of students pressed against windows, their faces pale with fear. The FBI arrived, taking command of the investigation, and by mid-morning they announced they had identified a person of interest. Cameras captured agents escorting the individual, headlines blared, suspect in custody, and relief rippled across campus. But the relief was short-lived. By evening, whispers spread that the suspect was being released. By midnight, confirmation came the FBI made a mistake. The person of interest was not the shooter. The Bureau's credibility collapsed in real time. Students who had spent the day in fear now faced a new terror, the realization that the system meant to protect them had failed. The blunder was not just tactical, it was symbolic. The FBI, an institution that prides itself on precision, had stumbled publicly. The reward for information was raised to $50,000, but the damage was already done. Parents questioned whether their children were safe, and students questioned whether lockdowns meant protection or paralysis. Faculty questioned whether the guardians of order could still deliver clarity. This failure echoes past blunders. Think of the Boston Marathon bombing, where initial reports misidentified suspects. Think of Uvalde, where law enforcement hesitated while children lay trapped. Think of countless moments where institutions promised certainty but delivered chaos. Brown University now joins that list, and it's a case study in how credibility can vanish in a single misstep. The impact is profound. For students, the lockdown was not just physical, it was psychological. Imagine being 19 years old, locked in a dorm room, scrolling social media, watching your university's name trend worldwide. Imagine hearing helicopters overhead, sirens, and then learning that the suspect paraded before cameras was innocent. The fear is compounded by confusion. Who is the shooter? Where is the threat? Who can be trusted? Let's see if we can pull this ahead and find this. This is the suspect. Now, for parents, the blunder is unforgivable. They send their children to elite institutions believing in safety and believing in competence. To see the FBI stumble so publicly is to see the guardians of order stripped of authority. And for faculty, the fiasco undermines the very foundations of the classroom. How do you teach when students no longer trust the system that protects them? The ideological framing is clear. Brown University is not just a campus, it's a microcosm of Americans' crisis of trust. Institutions promise of safety but deliver fear, and authorities project certainty but collapse under scrutiny. The security state expands surveillance, it expands authority, it expands budgets, and yet, when tested, it falters. The blunder at Brown is not an isolated incident, it's a symptom of a deeper disease, the erosion of institutional credibility. Consider the surveillance state. Across the country, schools roll out AI monitoring systems, facial recognition cameras, bathroom sensors. Officials claim it's about safety, and critics warn it's about control. Brown University shows the paradox. Even with surveillance, even with authority, even with federal agents, clarity collapses. And the promise of safety is hollow. The reality is fear. Brown was supposed to be a fortress of learning. Instead, it became a showcase of failure. The shooter remains at large, but the real fugitive is credibility itself. The FBI's blunder is not just a mistake, it's a revelation. It reveals the fragility of trust, the vulnerability of institutions, and the danger of relying on authority without accountability. The broader implications are chilling. If the FBI can stumble so publicly at Brown, what does it mean for national security? What does it mean for border control or for counterterrorism or for the fight against fentanyl? If the guardians of order cannot deliver clarity on a campus, how can they deliver clarity on a battlefield? The blunder at Brown is not just about one shooter, it's about the competence of the security state itself. Students will remember that day, not just for the fear of a shooter, but for the collapse of trust. And parents will remember it, not just for the sirens, but for the failure of authority. Faculty will remember it, not just for the lockdown, but for the erosion of credibility. And the nation will remember it as another moment when institutions promised certainty but delivered chaos. The shooter may be at large, but the real fugitive is credibility itself. And that's the lesson of Brown University. That's the story of December 16th, 2025. We'll see you tomorrow.